Hello everybody, this is Toys R Us. For this special figure showcase, we're going to be looking at some original Generation 1 figures, and we're going to be comparing them with the new War for Cybertron Siege versions of themselves. So what we'll do with this video, we'll have a quick overlook at them all now, and then I'll pick the camera up and we'll have a bit more detailed look at them all rather than being from this far away. So as I say, the War for Cybertron range of figures is really good. It's been really popular with lots of collectors out there. They're even comparing them and saying, you know, they're as good as the masterpiece versions that obviously cost 3-4 times more the price of the normal Siege figures. So the general consensus around the community is, you know, we are really liking these figures. And what we've got in front of us here is we've got some of the Voyagers, a couple of the leader class and a couple of the legends at the front. I will be doing other videos on the rest soon, but as you can see, due to space, this is pretty much all I can display neatly enough that you can see in between them rather than having them too overcrowded. So if we're looking at the top step first, to the far left obviously we've got Thundercracker, and again everybody's agreeing with these new moulds for the jets. They're just fantastic. Funnily enough, obviously next to him is the Generation 1 version, and same as what they did in Generation 1, they just used the same moulds and have just changed the colours on them all. So a very clever trick from Hasbro and Takara, obviously to make more money, but it just works, and of course we still keep buying them all. So next we've got a leader class figure, which is Ultra Magnus, and of course we've got his Generation 1 right next to him. If I was to be really pedantic, my only bugbearer at the moment with these is the figures seem to be getting that little bit smaller. The leader class figures, don't get me wrong, the articulation's fantastic, they look really good, the detail's immense, but as you can see, Shockwave next to him and Ultra Magnus, they are leader class figures, and they're just getting a bit smaller, but I'm sure everybody else has noticed this, and I'm sure it's all being picked on. Figures are getting smaller, packages are getting bigger. It's pretty much the same as chocolate bars and everything else in the world, isn't it? But yep, there's Ultra Magnus. That's his normal version. I've got his Netflix version as well, which is on another video, but that's just the standard one. And you can, again, I've just said how big the original Ultra Magnus was next to him. Massive difference is, of course, though, that you can move the legs and actually really play with him. The original G1's a bit of a brick, but still looks really good. Shockwave, I've just recently done a video on him as well. Love the original figure, never had it when I was a kid. Very basic though. I did mention obviously that he turned into a gun, and they are seeming to, as we'll come to Megatron in a minute, obviously not being allowed to do that anymore. So Shockwave again, leader class figure. And then moving over to Starscream, and as I've already mentioned about the Seeker jets, that they are all the same moulds, even when they were Generation 1 figures as well. Bottom shelf then, so we've got the triple change in Horicons, Decepticon Headmasters, and we've got Apeface, and again brilliant homage to the original. You've got obviously the shields and the gun, just a different colour gun if you want to be super picky, but quite a bit smaller as you can see. Again, I will pick the camera up in a minute and we'll have a look at a bit more detail. We've got the original Megatron right next to them, next to the new Megatron, and of course the biggest thing is the fact I've already mentioned that he won't turn into a gun, but I do also like the fact that the new sculpt of the head is far better than the original Generation 1. The original Generation 1 head sculpt obviously looks nothing like the cartoon or pretty much the comics either, so it's good that we've got the Megatrons now with the faces that you can recognise. Original Generation 1 Optimus Prime obviously needs no introduction. There he is, still a great figure, standout, hugely popular character still. And again, I really like the new Siege figure next to him. The Megatron and the Optimus, again, are Voyager class figures, so they're quite big. They're big enough, they're just a bit bigger than their original Generation 1 releases, which you can see. Moving over, we've got an Autobot triple changer this time, and this figure's very good. I will be doing a video on it by itself soon, and of course that is Springer, and I just think that one again is fantastic. I do really like, I've said it a couple of times, everybody's saying it, these new Siege figures, they are very good. Quickly, just to fill up some space so I can get most figures on, is at the front we've got of course the Legends class figures, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm just going to say it, I massively prefer the original Generation 1 cassettes, even though I've had a right game trying to get Ravage to stand up. I've done about 4 takes to be fair, and he's fell over within the first sentence, but typically and luckily for me now he's staying up. I just prefer the Generation 1. I think they look a lot better. I think the Generation 1 ones are better than the War for Cybertron ones they did as well, the circular ones. I'm just not really liking. Maybe the Masterpiece, maybe they're pretty good, but I'm just not really liking any of the new cassettes that they're releasing at the moment. Moving swiftly along then, again before we pick it up and go into more detail, we've got 2 of the Rescue Patrol, and there's a little name change here. So the fire engine was originally known as, where has he gone? I think it's Red Heat, and I'm sure they've changed his name, or have I got it the wrong way around? Let me have a quick look. Yes, so he was called Red Hot, and they've changed his name to Red Heat. So that's the bottom one on the right hand side, which turns into a fire engine, and Stakeout, the police car, is exactly the same. Height wise, they're pretty much exactly the same, which you can see, and again, there's just more articulation. You can pull the legs apart rather than having them right next to each other. So that was a quick overview of them. I'm going to pick the camera up now then, hopefully it doesn't fall off. Let's have a look at these. So here we go. There's your Thundercracker. Excuse the glare if there is, it's quite late over here and I'm trying to get this video done in time. But yeah, height difference, again, Voyager class figure though, so that's why the Wolf Cybertron one looks so good. There's the detail difference you can see in the Ultra Magnus. Yes, the original one's bigger, but look, the fact that you can just pull these legs apart is a big thing, especially for playability, because let's be honest, you know, these are toys and they are supposed to be played with. Although I can honestly say, hand on heart, yet that pretty much all of these Siege I've not transformed, so haven't had much chance to have much fun with them yet. There's Shockwave, again, lovely figure. Did a video on these too. I really love the original one. He's so tall, but he is so flimsy, and he can be a right devil to get to balance up, and sometimes with these they do slide down into the joints, whereas you're not going to have any problem with that with the new Siege. And I've already mentioned a few times, and I'm just going to quickly say it for the last time. There we go. Similar mould, exactly the same as the G1. They just obviously changed the colour scheme. Okay, over to Ape Face. Now the good thing about this Ape Face, and anybody who's got the Generation 1 guys will remember, I know that the new ones has got a lot of the kibble on the back, but he still stands all by himself, whereas the Generation 1, this can be very loose at the back. I mean, that's a huge amount of kibble at the back, and he can fall over, and sometimes he does, to be fair, but because he's resting against the other step, he's okay. I'm going to go to Megatron, then I'm going to come down to the Legends figure. So there's the original Megatron. Big difference here, if we want to be really pedantic, is obviously the original ones were made out of die-cast, so they were much heavier, as well as obviously being transformed into a gun. But there's that head sculpt. You can see it looks like Megatron. That never did. I remember being a child, and it was probably the only thing that I was really disappointed with, because he just looked nothing like he did in the cartoon. While we're here then, there's Laserbeak, and there's the original one, and again, I don't know, look at the difference. The difference is amazing. I don't even think there's much more articulation here. There's probably not. Sorry, my huge hand in this tiny camera, but yeah, the original one's way better. Ravage, again, same. If you want to be pedantic, and I suppose have a case for an argument, of course, he is a very thin, you know, figure there, but it just looks better, in my opinion anyway, obviously. So there's Optimus Prime. You can get massive difference in the detail's fantastic. He obviously looks a lot more cartoon accurate. He's got a great big axe, which he used quite a lot obviously in cartoons and in the comic books, whereas obviously the standard Optimus Prime figure just had the gun you can see in his hand. Moving over to Springer, again, lovely figure, very popular character, of course, one of the wreckers. The original figure's still popular now. It's got 3 obviously good modes. The sword though is cleverly just the rotor blades for the helicopter, but articulation's very minimal. I mean, look, there's his arms coming out the side. I've done a video on him. I might do an updated one on it soon, to be fair. And there's the newer one. You can see it's much better. It's much more cartoon accurate. One thing again that I've noticed with a lot of these figures, a lot of the old Generation 1 tend to use quite a bit of chrome as well. And of course we've found out through the years that you get chrome fade and things like that, so you don't really see many figures now with chrome at all, so that's obviously good. And then here's finally your Micromaster Patrols, just a lot more detailed, and again I've had to bend him really over at the hips, you can see, just to get him to balance. It probably doesn't help, let's be honest, that he's on carpet, but they can be much more fiddly, these little ones. They didn't have much room at the bottom, much base, much surface area, that's the words I'm after, much surface area to get them to balance properly. When I display them in my cabinets, blue tack, see, when I display them in the cabinets, because they are temperamental and they don't always stand so well. So with the new ones, you've got the articulation, you've got the fatter feet, and they just stand up. But here we go, we're going to wrap it up nicely. I'm getting lots of good comments from these comparisons. People seem to really like these. And again, it's good to walk down memory lane. I say this at the end of every single video, but it's so true. You've got the younger generation now who've probably never seen the originals, and of course people my age and a bit older might not have seen the new ones yet. And unfortunately for us older guys, it's really hard to not buy the new ones because of how good they are. But there you have it. There is, I suppose it's part one, yeah, part one, because I'm going to do the deluxe figures very, very soon as well, of the comparisons between original Generation 1 and the new War for Cybertron Seige figures. Keep your suggestions coming. Again, I've got every single figure from the Generation 1 line. If there's one you want me to see, if you haven't seen in person or you've only seen it in a magazine, I'd love to showcase it for you. And yeah, just give me a shout. Take care, everybody. Thanks very much.